And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another episode of the Assembly Call, another special off-season edition episode of the Assembly Call. I'm your host, Jared Morris, here with Andy Bottoms, and a couple of special guests, one that you know very, very well, Jordan Hulls, former IU basketball player, IU legend, currently playing out in Belgium. And Jordan is here to talk with us today, along with Jon Mugar, who founded the basketball tournament. And, of course, Jordan played in the basketball tournament last year for Armored Athlete, planning on playing again. And so we're going to spend some time this morning getting caught up with Jordan and how he's doing in his professional basketball career, and then also talk with Jon about the basketball tournament, how that all came about, and then what you can do to support Armored Athlete, because it's not just Jordan who is playing with Armored Athlete, but also Will Sheehy, Christian Watford, and another guy that you probably know, Roosevelt Jones, will be playing for Armored Athlete. And so they are certainly going to be the team of choice for Indiana fans across the globe. But with that said, let's welcome in our guest. Jordan, welcome to the Assembly Call. I know you and I talked on Podcast on the Brink, but it's good to have you on this show as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's a cool little thing, and I'm excited to be here and talk about what the summer's going to entail. It's really cool.
And where are you coming to us from? Are you in Belgium right now?
I'm currently in Belgium, yeah, and I live a little like 45 minutes outside of Brussels in a smaller town called Hasselt, and
Okay.
I play for Hubo Limburg United. That's my team out here in the first division in the Score League. So it's been a good year, and it's May, so things are winding down, but we're looking to end strong.
Okay, and by in strong, are you talking playoffs? How does that all work out there?
Yeah, well, we have two more games until the playoffs start. We're in the it's kind of confusing how it's all mapped out, but we're in the top five, so the top five teams play against each other, and we have two more games in that second round, so they call it. So we're just playing for seeding, but we already locked up the fourth seed, so pretty much I don't think we can move up or down based on records, but two more games until playoffs start next week.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And Jon, I want to bring you in here too. And obviously, as I said, you founded the basketball tournament, and we just had a chance to talk a little bit here before we went live. And you let us know that you actually grew up cheering for a couple of guys that a lot of other IU fans cheered for growing up, probably Jordan too, Damon Bailey and Brian Evans.
That's right, and I grew up in Boston, I didn't really have an apparent connection. It was sort of a random affiliation that I felt with them, but I grew up loving them.
And as you were telling us too, you had an experience in Assembly Hall as well.
Yep, we for one of my birthday presents, my brother, we sort of like to take a basketball pilgrimage. We try to do it every couple of years, and he got me tickets to an Illinois at Indiana game in Assembly Hall back when D. Brown and Darren Williams were at Illinois, so I don't think it ended favorably for Indiana that day, but pretty awesome to see that arena.
Sorry, that's one of the few Indiana-Illinois games that hasn't ended favorably for Indiana over the past couple of decades. So,
in my experience, Illinois beats them every time, but that's only when I'm there in person. So I'm not sure.
Right. And someone else who grew up cheering for Damon Bailey and Brian Evans, Andy Bottoms. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm doing well. This is kind of weird to have an early morning edition for us here, but
I know.
Put off going to work for an hour, so I guess I can't complain too much.
I know our shows usually start at like 9 or 10 at night, but of course we wanted to accommodate Jordan, who's over halfway across the world, and so you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
So, I mean, Jordan, I wanted to get caught up just on your professional career, and you told us how the season's going in Belgium. I mean, what's it been like overall? Just the transition to playing in the pros. And I know I think you bounced around to a couple of different leagues, and now is this your second year in Belgium?
This is my first year in Belgium, but my third year overall. I've played in Poland and I played in Kosovo. So the main thing, I guess, over the last 3 years is that each country I've been in has presented me with different opportunities and different learning experiences. The first year is always the hardest, being away from Bloomington. I hadn't ever lived away from Bloomington more than 2 weeks, so that was quite the culture shock for me moving abroad. But being able to play basketball for a living has been my dream, and I'm glad to be able to keep pursuing that. And like I said, I've learned a lot, different cultures, different people, foods, everything is just all a pretty cool experience to be able to do that just by playing basketball. So I'm pretty grateful for that.
Yeah, and are you thinking it'll be another year in Belgium next year, or is that something where it's just you kind of have to wait till the end of the year to figure those things out?
Right, I really love Belgium. It's been a great country. Everybody speaks English. The organization I'm with is really good. But as of right now, nothing's final. That'd be great if that happens. But if not, then there's lots of other things that can happen. So I think right now the main focus is to finish the season strong and see where that takes us. Me and my agent will discuss what's the best for me, and if that's here, then great. If it's elsewhere, then that's just part of the business. So. But like I said, I'm enjoying my time, and main focus is just finishing strong.
Jordan, so did you go from Bloomington to Kosovo?
Bloomington to Poland.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so not not quite the same. There's not Kilroy's and Kirkwood Avenue all down in Poland. You don't find that too often.
Yeah, that's an amazing transition. And that's like your first time living outside of Bloomington?
Yeah, that was my first time living outside of Bloomington. I had been to China for like a missions basketball tour in college, but that was just for 2 weeks. So, I was kind of spoiled being at home my whole college career and obviously my whole life. So, going to Poland was quite the transition, to say the least. I lost a lot of weight that year.
So, Jordan, one question, and we got this from Will DeWitt, who's one of the other guys on the show, and to bring this back to Brian Evans again, for a class project that Will was doing, he got to interview Brian Evans, but apparently another person in his same class interviewed you, and told us that we need to ask you about fireworks while playing in Kosovo. So I don't know anything more about it than that, but so if it's an awfully worded question, I apologize, but you clearly know whatever he's wanting us to get to here, so give us a little more info on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the question he asked me was what was like one of the crazier experiences I've had, while playing abroad. And I told him about the story in Kosovo. We played in two separate leagues, the Kosovo League and the Balkan League. The Balkan League, you play against other teams from other countries. It's a pretty good league. We ended up winning it, but we were playing in Montenegro, and we had just made a run, like 9-0 run or something like that. We call a timeout. And, we're huddled up by the bench and stuff like that. And next thing we know, a M80 is right next to our huddle, and it just blows up. And it was the loudest thing. Everybody just scatters. And come to find out, someone from the stands had thrown something. It landed right next to our huddle. They threw a perfect toss right next to whatever. And I don't know how they got it into the stands or anything like that, but one guy had to get stitches in his leg, and he was out for like a month because it kept, reopening, and it was hard to heal. Some coaches had some bandages and, other cuts and bruises and stuff. Luckily, no one was hurt very seriously. But after the bomb went off, we went to the locker room, waited it out. We said we're not going back out there, and the league made the other team forfeit, so we ended up getting a 20-0 win technically. But
Jeez.
That was probably the craziest thing that's ever happened because it was so like. It could have been anything. They could have thrown anything in the huddle. So it was pretty crazy, and I'm glad that we got the forfeit and just got to go home.
Does that give you a different perspective? When people ask about tough places to play in college basketball, does that give you a little different perspective on what it's like?
That adds a little bit different element, compared to like, I didn't like going this place because they said bad things. Well, this place throws fireworks in your huddle, so that's probably my least favorite place.
My anxiety level just rocketed really high because I get very anxious about everything with TBT, and that's one. We've been M80 free, knock on wood, for 2 years, but that's one thing I've never considered, that someone brings something like that into an event.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that would ever happen with security, good security, but
yeah.
Or people just being. I don't know why they even thought that was okay to do that, but.
Well, just make sure he doesn't tick anybody off too bad.
Yeah, that's true. Will's gonna have to tame himself a little bit before.
Hey, Jordan, let me ask you. While you're out there, do you get a chance to keep tabs on the Hoosiers? I mean, were you able to watch kind of how this season progressed and how the team did?
Yeah, obviously the 6-hour time difference is pretty difficult. But like if I had an off day the next day, I would stay up the whole night and set an alarm and wake up or whatever just to watch the games. And I was. Just like everybody else, it was a great season to watch. I really enjoyed the guys, and I think they proved a lot of people wrong, so that's always fun to do. And obviously I'm connected with Yogi because that's the only guy I've really played with on the team. And I still keep in contact with the coaches and stuff like that, wishing them good luck and all that kind of stuff. And so it was pretty cool to be able to watch them, grow this year and, like I said, shock a lot of people. So it was cool.
Oh, go ahead, Andy.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to ask one thing, just in terms of, you talked about, living away from Bloomington for the first time in Kirkwood and things like that. So now that you've been away for a few years, what is the thing that you miss the most, whether that be a restaurant, place to hang out, place on campus? Now, I realize you're probably going to feel obligated to say something about like your mom's cooking, so we understand. I'm sure that's part of it. So feel free to answer however you want if you want to give a couple things. But what do you miss most? I know everybody, as we talk to different people and fans, they talk about like the things that they miss about Bloomington. But somebody who grew up there and played basketball there probably has a unique perspective on that.
Yeah, I just miss the whole environment. Like, there's nothing like Bloomington. Like, living away made me appreciate how cool Bloomington really is. I'd say I miss the food the most because, you got Opie Taylor's, you got Buff Louie's, you got, all these great restaurants that I love to go to, and you can't really get that over here in Belgium. It's probably a lot less healthy for you, but regardless, those are things that I miss, and obviously I miss my friends and family a lot. Being away 9 to 10 months out of the year is never easy, and you miss so much. You miss your niece and nephews growing up. You miss your friends getting engaged and, throwing parties and stuff like that. So you just miss a lot of those little things that you would normally probably take for granted if you're actually stateside rather than being abroad. But like I said, I'm grateful for the opportunity to even be able to do this. It's so short term that you can only play basketball for so long. So I'm trying to take advantage of that.
Jordan, one more question for you about the Hoosiers, and then I want to dive in and start talking about Armored Athlete. But it's been 4 years since you left, and obviously when you left, you final season teams ranked number one seed, made it to the Sweet 16, and now in the time since you've left, the Hoosiers have won another Big Ten title, made a couple of tournament appearances. What do you think about the current state of the program? Is it where you thought it would be, a little bit behind, a little bit ahead? What's kind of your gut feeling on the state of the program?
I'm really excited about where it's going. Personally, obviously, from experience, I know how good Coach Crean and his staff are at developing players and getting the right guys into the program. Not to say they didn't have their ups and downs since I've been gone, but, overall, I'm really excited about what Coach Crean and the staff and all the players are doing. I'm excited. I think this year really, really got people even more excited. You got OG, who's great. Kind of unexpected, I think, to a lot of people what he was able to do. And Thomas Bryan obviously he's going to be really good in the days to come. Rob Johnson, you got all these guys who people are excited about watching, and I think that's great for the program. And I think it's as an alum now, it's kind of weird to say that, but as an alum and former player, it's good to see have them have their success like they are. And obviously, I'm really happy for the coaches and. Like I said, always great to prove people wrong too, so that's good.
Yes, it is. Well, and they definitely did that last year when everybody left them for dead in December. So
yeah,
it was nice to see. So, John, I want to bring you in. I want to talk about the basketball tournament, which a lot of people know about, but some people still may not know about, as it is relatively new. But it's something everybody should know about, because I know when I first read about it, I was really excited. And then, of course, seeing that there was going to be a team with IU guys, like Jordan and Christian and Will, who IU fans have such a special relationship with that group. It makes it exciting. And it's interesting, I found this description of the basketball tournament, and I think this is from Mashable, where they described it as March Madness, street ball, viral marketing, and the Hunger Games with a big fat pot of gold at the end. Do you like that description? Do you think that's an accurate description of what the basketball tournament is?
Yeah, I would strike street basketball in there, because this is I think maybe Jordan can attest to it, but we treat it very very real, with a lot of integrity, and sometimes the knock on street basketball is that there's not officiating or something like that. But we have 3 Division I quality or NBA refs per game, and we try to treat it almost like March Madness. So I'll take March Madness meets the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is something. The story of how you came up with this is interesting, because you're obviously a basketball guy. I mean, you grew up, cheering for Damon Bailey and Brian Evans. You played basketball at Tufts University, but then you kind of took a detour. Can you just give kind of that brief story of you were out in LA working as a comedy writer, and then here you are starting the basketball tournament? How does that happen?
Yep. So I moved out to Chicago, went through the Second City program for writing and improv and that sort of thing. I've always loved two things growing up. It was Saturday Night Live, and then it was basketball and sports. So I had those two sides of me my whole life, and I decided to pursue the comedy side for a while. Went out to LA. I was working with Adult Swim, doing production and some writing on some shows there on Adult Swim. And while out there, this part of me that loved basketball was still percolating, and just over conversations with some friends one day, and one friend in particular in New Orleans, Dan Friel, we came up with this idea. Basically, the beginning of the idea, which is, what would happen if you threw an obscene amount of money on the table and just said anybody could play for it. The first number we threw out was 50 million, 50 million. So we're kind of far from that point. But we started dreaming about how that would work, and we started looking at the open tournament format, which some people do in soccer now, like the FA Cup's open tournament. And we love this idea of anyone being able to come out of nowhere and build a team, build an organization, and then get to the point where they can actually be playing on national TV on ESPN for a life-changing sum of money.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. And so, Jordan, how then did it come about? Where you were going to get into this, and then getting a team together with Christian and with Will. How'd that whole thing come about?
Well, I had heard about it from Will, and he was really good buddies with our GM AJ, and so they kind of just got to talking, and they saw how cool of an opportunity this was going to be. And you're playing good basketball, you're playing it the right way, you're playing with a group of guys who know how to play, and for a lot of money, so that's always pretty enticing to be able to do something like that. And so they called me up and asked if I was down to play, and it didn't take me but 2 seconds to reply, yeah, I'm in. I mean, anytime you can play basketball in the summertime, I treat it as a great way to get better, and you get some good runs in, and then it doesn't hurt that you're playing for $2 million now. So it was not hard for me to decide to be able to play in that.
And and what's interesting about it is it's important for fans to get involved. And John, I want you to explain a little bit how kind of all the fan voting works. But for folks who are listening who want to support Armored Athlete, if you go to assemblycall.com/TBT, it will redirect you to the Armored Athlete page at the basketball tournament, and you want to vote because fan votes actually make a difference. And how does that all work, John?
That's right. So we have 16 teams in each region, 64 teams total this summer. And of those 16 teams in each region, the top 12 are automatically going to be selected for the tournament based on popularity, based on how many votes they get. So if Armored Athlete, I think they're in the top maybe 6 or 7 right now. If they maintain that position by June 1, they'll be in automatically and they'll be playing. Otherwise, we would have to select them with an at-large bid. But what's really unique about this, too, is that of the $2 million prize this year, 10% of that's going to go to the fans that vote for the eventual winning team. So $200,000 will go to the voters of that team. So that's a further incentive to get in there and support whoever you want to support.
Yeah, and again, it's assemblycall.com/TBT. That will take you there, and you can vote. And Jordan, how did you guys end up doing last year in the tournament?
We did pretty well. We got to the Elite Eight, and we were pretty disappointed. You get that far, but that's part of the fun with the tournament too. So is that no matter how good you play, you can get all the way to the championship game, and you can lose, and you're out. You can't do anything about it. So it was pretty. We were pretty excited to get into that and to do so well. So this year we're looking to do just as well, or obviously better, because we want to win the money. But
the round of 16 game last year that I was in the stands for was awesome. I don't know if you felt the energy of that one, but it felt like when we were watching that you and then the team you were playing, Hoopville Warriors, which is a group of guys from Chicago. It looked like you guys were really going at it. It was a great.
Yeah, that's why it's so great, because guys are playing hard. They're it's really good basketball, and when you put that money on the line, guys are gonna give it all they got. And obviously when we get all the Hoosier fans in the stands, and Obviously the other team's fans are going to be there, and it gets pretty rowdy in there, and it makes it fun to play in.
So, John, question for you. This kind of speaks to the Hoosier fans and their opportunity to see the team. What are the locations that the games are going to be played at this year?
The region Armored Athletes applying into is the Midwest region, and they're going to be playing in Chicago on. They starts July 9. So July 9 and 10 are the first weekends of the Midwest. If they advance beyond that point, they would go to our Super 16 round, which would be July 21, 22, 23 in Philadelphia. And then if they go beyond that, they go to New York for the semifinals, and then hopefully for them, they're on the $2 million winner-take-all championship game August 2nd, which will be on ESPN.
Okay. And then Jordan, as far as the team goes, so we talked about Christian and Will being on the team. What other guys are there, and maybe do you talk a little bit about who's back from last year and how much change you really had from the team that you guys played with a year ago?
Yeah, AJ's been doing a lot of work trying to get the best team assembled. Some guys. However, returning, we have David from Holy Cross, Malcolm Miller, he's coming back. But we also added Roosevelt Jones, obviously played at Butler. Julian Gamble, he played at Miami. He's actually playing in Belgium as well. Vernon Taylor is also playing in Belgium. And I think we're just really excited to get a few more different guys coming in, chipping in. And excited to get playing, and I think it'll be cool. Our coach Dan is doing a great job and AJ, of course, are doing a great job of getting great guys who are going to buy into the team concept, and I think that's what really helps in the tournament is when you can get guys who just play and don't really care, and obviously when you do that, good things are going to happen.
So how is it playing with guys like Christian and Will that you've played with so long? Is it just kind of like you slip back into the same thing? It's just like old times putting on a comfortable pair of shoes. Everything's just right back how it used to be. How cool is that for you?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, those guys are in my wedding, so obviously I'm really close with all my teammates, and to be able to go out there and play with those guys again, it's just like you said, I feel a lot more comfortable knowing their games and exactly what they're going to do. I know Will's going to come down and he'll shoot some shots that are questionable, but he always usually hits them, and that's just Will, and you love having guys like that on your team, so it's pretty special to be able to play with those guys.
Was Will always a headband player, or is that just something he put on for TBT?
Yeah, Will's kind of a free spirit. He wouldn't have been able to at IU, I don't think, to wear a headband, but that was kind of a Will Sheehy last minute thing just to do for TBT, I guess, but if that's how people are going to remember him, maybe he'll bring it back this year.
Yeah, I don't think he needed anything else to draw attention to himself from opposing fans when he was at IU. So
yeah,
didn't need the.
He shaved his head that one time at IU.
Yeah, he did.
That's true. That's true.
He went really low one time, but that's just Will. He doesn't care, man. It's awesome.
What's your favorite Will Sheehy story, Jordan? Maybe from a practice or something that you can tell that fans maybe didn't get a chance to see.
Favorite Will Sheehy story from practice. Will obviously he's an instigator, so he's always getting in somebody, and I don't know if you guys remember Guy Mark Michel, who came and played. He wasn't able to play with us, but Will had done something to really make him mad, and I just remember Guy just started charging after him, and Will, he kind of stood up to him a little bit, but he decided that wasn't a great idea because Guy's 7 foot tall with huge arms. So that was probably my favorite Will. I don't even know what he did to start that, but I always remember that, and we talk about that sometimes.
Hey,
Will being Will.
What's the story with a 4 foot tall Cody Zeller being on Armored Athlete? Because when I went to the page, he's listed on there.
Oh God. It's something that we've had this glitch in the website for 2 years where it lists everybody by default 4 feet tall. So it's sort of like an inside joke over here. So every time someone signs up, I'll say to a friend of mine, Dan, and be like, "Hey, do you know the GM of this team's 4 feet tall too?"
But I assume Cody's not playing. Like, how does that work? What's the eligibility like for guys to be able to play, John?
Well, We're open. According to us, we're open to anybody. So if LeBron wanted to play, we're not going to tell him not to play if he shows up to play. But in the past, we had a couple NBA guys sign up last year, like Ty Lawson and Nate Robinson, and their agents wound up pulling them out of it before they played. And we're not NBA sanctioned, so there's this whole world there that it probably gets a little complicated. But it's very unlikely that somebody who's under contract with the NBA would actually play.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why they would. I mean, that, like you said, it's life-changing money. It's good money to get in there and play. So for some of these guys, it'd be worth it. And obviously, they're the best players in the world. So
yeah, not only that though, it's a fun, really fun format for those guys. And we hear today some of these guys are just dying to get in. Like Rudy Gay a couple of years ago was planning on playing, and like these are like really top players. These people really love the idea of getting together with and playing with who they want to play with. And I think that's a very unique thing for players. At Jordan's level and at their levels, that they're kind of pre-selected with who they play with through their whole life, and this is like finally an opportunity for them to grab the guys that they like and they want to play with, and then with a chance to end up on TV like that.
So, I mean, you can pretty easily see a way where this expands and gets huge, and it already is, to where I'm sure you guys have many more than 64 teams applying, but yet you want to keep, kind of the novelty of a tournament too. What are your plans for growth for the future to keep it special like it is now, but try and accommodate and include and allow it to get as big as possible?
Yeah, one thing, we're always experimenting, first of all, but one thing we really want to do is grow this into a worldwide event. We think that can happen in the next few years, but really incorporate other teams, other countries, and make this a format that is open to players from all over the world. And we accept players from anywhere in the world now, but it's probably pretty hard for them to get over to the U.S. to play in the summer. So we'd like to expand that way for sure. But when we first came up with the idea, it's really about taking a pro sports league and restructuring it and incentivizing payments in a way that guaranteed the players are going to play as hard as possible every day. So that's we could possibly put some games on the front end of that, but that's really a ways off, and not for now.
Jordan, what's it? We kind of talked about what it's like playing with Christian Watford and with Will Sheehy. What's the structure like of the teams? And you talked about how you guys have a coach. I mean, how structured is it? You guys practicing? You have sets? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah. So AJ had last year. We like met up at a gym. A couple guys came in a couple days earlier, and we were able to get in a gym and stay in some hotels or someone who lived in Chicago area. And we met up and ran through some plays, and sometimes we'll have like scouting reports. Like they'll go and scout the opponents, and we'll come back the next day before the game and go over some notes over each player and that kind of stuff. So it makes it really fun to be taking it that seriously, but also when you go out there and play, and you're well prepared, because, like I said, everybody wants to win that money, and they do a great job of getting us prepared for that. And it's a lot of fun to go out there and play, and the basketball is fun again, and that's what it's supposed to be, and I think that's why a lot of guys like to play it in the summertime for sure.
It's interesting that you say that, because you often hear this debate or this discussion about why college sports are better than professional sports, and people talk about, well, college athletes are playing for the love of the game, and when they're professionals, they're just playing for the money. But it's interesting that you just said, guys are playing for the money, but they're playing hard and it's fun. Like, how has your opinion on that, or kind of your perspective, changed now that you are a professional athlete? Like, does that change your motivation? Do you see a difference in the guys that you're playing against and playing with?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love the game of basketball. If I didn't love it, then I wouldn't still be playing it, because I'm not going to spend most of the year away from the people that I love to do something that I'm not enjoying or loving to do. This year has been great for me, and it's the love of the game is still there. So like I said, I want to keep playing as long as I can, but I think it does change just a little bit, just because the business side of things gets into it. Like when you're in college, you're there for 4 years. You know your spot. You got this coaching staff. From obviously things can change, but for the most time you got recruited there to do this, or this, and it's pretty structured. But in the professional level, you can get kicked off the team within 2 weeks if you're not performing well, or if if some money isn't given. Certain instances happen where money's not given to you on time, and just the little things like that, business side things that a lot of people don't realize that goes on over here. just anywhere is pretty just different, gives you a different little mindset as far as it's fun and we love doing it still, but when the business side of things gets a little weary or whatever, that's when it gets frustrating because you just want to play and you want to get paid to do what you love, and that, all those kind of things. But
Yeah. Hey, Jon, I wanted to ask you, I found a great quote from you. You did an interview with Sports Business Daily, and they asked you about the future of sports business, and you said more power to fans and improved sports properties as a result. And obviously we're big proponents of that because we were just fans of Indiana basketball and decided we wanted to start this post-game show, and 5 years later it's grown into something a lot bigger. So we fully agree that now with the internet, and there is a lot more power now for fans. What did you kind of mean by that statement, and where do you see, sports going as we move forward and the power that fans can have?
Well, it just kind of seems backwards to me when this group of very passionate fans can be cheering on a professional sports team in their hometown all the way to the World Series or wherever they go, and then all of a sudden they're basically only greeted with a raise in their ticket packages the next year. And the fans don't have a say or don't really get to enjoy the victory on the financial level the same way that players do. And I feel like that fans and players should all be in this journey together to some extent. So that's really why we structured our payouts so we're including the fans of the winning team. That's definitely a model I wanted to test out. Because I think there's a little bit too much separation in pro sports. It's like an us versus them mentality of fans and players, and there's not, I think, with more crossover between the two and more mutual respect between the two, and if both stood to share in the success of the team, it would just be a better format for fans.
Yeah, and to recap, I mean, fans who reach certain tiers of votes in supporting their team, they participate. What is it, 20% of the payout, right? They can kind of share in that.
Yep. And I was reading, there was I'm not a soccer fan, but Premier League, they had a team that won yesterday. That I don't know if you guys know the name of the team.
Leicester, I think. Leicester City.
Yeah, something like that.
And they were 5,000 to 1 odds. And so there were a lot of videos going around the internet yesterday of people who put, what was it, like $10 down at the beginning of the year, who were fans of that team in that hometown. So they obviously stood to gain, $50,000 if that team won. And so to see the passion that they had for cheering on their hometown team, and then it ultimately realized and them benefiting financially, was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is awesome. Hey, Jordan, how's the skills camp going? Because I think I saw you're doing that again this year, right?
Yeah, so this summer I'll have my 3rd annual JH1 Skills Academy in Bloomington. It's a great opportunity to give back to Bloomington, obviously, my community, and it's going pretty well. We got some people signed up, and it's June 22nd through 24th. And, I love doing that kind of stuff. It gives me a chance to work with my family, too. They're highly involved in that, and things are going well. And I'm also selling instructional videos for that as well. So it's going good. And it's gives me something else to do in my free time over here, just to keep working on things like that and trying to build a brand and stay up to date with all the IU kids and all that kind of stuff over there.
Well, what was that process like of putting those videos together? I remember when I was a kid growing up, they always used to show us the Pete Maravich skills videos, where he's like bouncing the ball between his legs and catching it and all these different drills. Is it that kind of stuff that you're doing in those videos?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I grew up watching, is Pistol Pete homework basketball. I would still watch that today if I still had the copy. I love that stuff. He's my favorite player, but I try and make it similar to that. I try and make it as real as possible. I think for me, a lot of kids look up to me just because I'm not the fastest, I'm not the quickest, the strongest, any of those things. I just got to where I am because of hard work, and I had good surroundings about me and good head on my shoulders. So I think if kids can relate to that and they see all the drills that I did growing up, that's what I relate to them. Everything that my mom and dad taught me are things that I instruct in the DVDs as well and at the camp. So it's something that I take to heart, and I think it's really cool to be able to do something like that.
That explains a lot, Jordan, because I do see some Pistol Pete in your game.
I just need the floppy hair back and the floppy socks. I wish I was 6'6" like him, but I'm not.
Maybe that's a look that Will could pull off.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell him to he might be growing his hair out over here. Who knows? I haven't seen his face in a long time.
And speaking of skills, obviously you were well known for your free throw shooting, and I was going back some of your stats before we started this, and I had forgotten about the free throw record that you set, where you set the record for consecutive free throws. I think it was at 56. Because you have an unbreakable record, which is Indiana's record for free throw percentage in a season in Big Ten games, because you made all 35 that season and next year. Like, is that the kind of thing? And that and obviously you're up there. I don't know if you did have the record for games played, I think, and I don't know if Yogi broke that.
Yogi passed you. Yeah. Yogi
passed you.
Yeah.
So, is that the kind of stuff that you think about and that you keep track of now that your career's over?
Yeah, as a player, I didn't really care about any of that stuff, or I try not to. If someone told me about it, I really didn't, take it, But now looking back, it is something that you look at and see, like, where did I leave my mark, or did people think that I was the hardest working player out there, or what did I want people to know me for? And you talk about the free throw shooting and just shooting in general and games play. I think that's pretty cool to be able to just to be in the top 10 or anything in any of those categories would be pretty cool. So that is something that you look at, but I'm happy with what I was able to do, whether I'm in the record books or not. So I'm glad to be a part of that.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned that, the thing I think people will think of you most about is the shooting. And so I tried to look up your stats for this year, and it seems like you're doing okay, only about 51% on your threes. So good to know that you haven't lost your stroke since you left Bloomington, and the challenges with finding good food to eat overseas has not impacted your shooting. But what do you kind of attribute your shooting, your form, technique, all those kinds of things that I assume you work with people on at the camp as well? Like, kind of where did that start, and who really influenced that a lot?
Yeah, well, my grandfather he coached at Army and at IU with Coach Knight, and he was a shooting coach. So I first learned it from my dad, who learned it from obviously my grandpa. So it started at a really young age. I used to be one of those kids who was just a flinger. I wasn't strong enough to get the ball up to the rim, so I was really just a passer at a younger age. But it's something that my dad worked on with me in the driveway every single day, and he didn't let me shoot threes until I was in middle school, just so my form wouldn't get messed up, that kind of stuff. And so I attribute a lot to my mom and my dad. But my dad was there a lot of the time, and he taught me people give me flack for my form, but it's called the open window form. So I have both eyes on the rim at the same time. So it's a little different, but it's working out for me. So I'm not too upset about it.
I would say so. It's funny you say that. My daughter will go out in the driveway. She's 8, and will try to shoot from really far away. And I'm like, stop doing that. I was like, you're not going to shoot. I'm like, if you ever shoot that in a game, I'm going to take you out. So don't even bother. Work your way back gradually.
Yeah, kids, they'll come on the court and they'll just start shooting threes. When I go on the court, I'm right underneath the basket working on form shooting. It's just different, I guess, but it's something that habits I got when I was little.
Yeah, how do you think I've heard a couple people talk about people wanting to shoot threes now, and some of the things that Steph Curry's doing and how that impacts what young players want to do. I mean, is that something that it seems like you're seeing as you have kids come through the camp, and those kinds of things have become such more of a focus because of a guy like him who's so fun to watch and makes it look so easy?
Yeah, he does make it look real easy, but the shots he's taking are ridiculous. And people have to realize he's able to shoot that way because he did all the little things when he was a little kid, and all of the years growing up, he perfected his shot the way he shoots it, and he's able to shoot fade away from 30 feet out because he's worked on it so much that it just becomes second nature. And it is the 3-point line obviously has changed the game so much. Different, just whole offensive schemes are based upon it now, and I think it's just trickling down into the younger kids. And obviously when you see guys like Steph who shoot shots like that, they're going to try and imitate all his shots and all those kind of things, which is great, but you should start with the fundamentals first and then work your way up to that.
So who are some of your favorite shooters, either growing up or even guys that you really like to watch now, try to take pieces of their game, who kind of inspired you in that way?
Mm-hmm. Well, Pistol Pete obviously did his homework basketball, so I didn't get to watch him. I got to watch him show drills, but I found some old YouTube clips of him. Steve Nash is my favorite player other than Pistol Pete. I can learn a lot from him because he's not the most athletic or anything like that, but he just finds ways to get to the bucket, and obviously his court vision is something that you don't see often at all. I really like Tony Parker and Steph Curry, obviously. Any guard I can really relate my game to are things that I try and watch and look out for. I'm not going to really go out and watch LeBron James do post moves and fadeaways and stuff like that. I'm not going to get anything out of that. I'm just going to get it blocked into the stands.
So let me ask you a question about armored athletes. So as we start to, as you guys get ready for the tournament, let's say that you guys are down by 1 or 2 points. There's 4 or 5 seconds left. Is there any question who's getting the last shot?
I don't know. It depends on how the game's flowing. I'm not the guy who's saying, like, give me the ball or anything like that right now, but if I was hot and had hit a couple shots, maybe so, or if I have to be a decoy, at that point it's just do whatever it takes to win the ball game. And
would Watford come over and be like, dude, like does he pull rank when it comes to last second shots since he's got the most famous one?
No,
second most famous one actually in IU history.
That Kentucky one was all right, but we'd have to be in that same exact situation for us to be like, we're going to run this play for you, so be ready. I don't know. I don't think he would. It just depends on the flow of the game, but he would be a likely candidate, I guess.
Yeah. So John, who are the favorites heading into the tournament this year?
We still have 4 weeks to go for teams entering, which is sort of unbelievable. But I think I would definitely put Armored Athlete up there. We have the 4 returning champions from each region. The winner from last year is coming back, Overseas Elite, which has Eric McCollum, Mike Kabongo, DJ Kennedy, a bunch of really great players there. It's just there's a Kentucky alumni team this year. They call the Bluegrass Boys for the first time, and a Kansas State team as well. And
boo.
Oh boy, we're gonna have to cut you after the Kentucky talk. We can't now. Keep going.
Right,
but
Jordan, if you guys play,
keep that to a minimum at least going forward.
Well, you guys will really love the Michigan State team that popped up 2 days ago. So they're getting.
And there's a Syracuse team, right?
Yeah, Syracuse as well.
Yeah.
So Michigan State's going to be in your region, Jordan, but they're called Spartan Heroes if they make it in. It looks like they will.
Okay.
Who's on their team?
I don't know who they have 6 guys up now. It's called Spartan Heroes. If you go to thetournament.com, you can search for them. I don't know who their latest guy is. Charlie Bell, I think they just added. But,
okay.
They're really good. So yeah, there's no shortage of great teams. I mean, last year, I don't know. Jordan's point was sort of right on, which is you really want to focus on the team aspect, which is one of the big experiments with this whole model because we kind of throw it open. Last year we had a team like with Scalabrini and Mike Bibby on the team, and they lost in the 3rd round to a team of no ex-NBA players, and both of those guys they're in very good shape, can still bring it. So teamwork really wins over talent in this tournament very consistently. Yeah.
Jordan, if you guys were to get matched up with, say, that Syracuse team in the tournament, like, is that the kind of thing, and obviously we know that, your career at IU ended with a loss to Syracuse that still haunts all of us to this day. Yeah. I mean, is that the kind of thing where if you played them, like, would you and Christian and Will, like, would that come up, like, that game, would it feel like a potential, I mean, in a very small way, or would that
anytime, even when I see the name Syracuse, it automatically goes back to that game. A lot of those guys might not even be on the Syracuse team in the tournament, but it would definitely spark a little fire in us, I think, or at least it would for me, for sure. I think it would the other guys as well.
Is that your most frustrating memory from your IU time, thinking back to that game?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty frustrating. I'll never rewatch the game. I don't think, unless I'm forced to. If it pops on, maybe I'll just get into it or something. But I won't ever physically put a DVD in and watch that game. The week before, it took a lot out of us, and that was a great game. And then we came into that week, and I don't know. I don't even know if I've really even talked about it since it's happened. But yeah, being hurt and going through that game and not hitting a shot or being able to do much to help my team, and it was pretty frustrating.
And it's a shame because that was such a great season, and such a great team, and I think that's why everybody was frustrated by it. I mean, when you do think back to your career, what are the moments, the specific moments that come up first? What do you think about first?
Well, the Kentucky win was huge for us. Obviously, the way that we won was great, but that was also it put us on the map. Nobody really counted us to be one of the better teams in the country that year, and we were undefeated for I think 15. We lost at Michigan State for our first game, I think, first loss of the season. But that was like where it all started for us, and I'll always remember that game and winning at NC State that year as well, my junior year. First big road win for the guys who had been there with Coach Crean. I'll always remember that game as well. And then college game day, just the atmosphere of that game, I'll always remember that. So certain things like that, and winning the Big Ten championship the way that we did, those are all things that I'll forever cherish.
It's funny you mentioned that NC State game because we mentioned that at least a few times on the post-game show every season, it seems like, because that was such – I think people forget about how important that game was where you guys were down and came back, and it was, I think you'd won at Evansville, so it wasn't kind of the first road win, but it was the first big road win under Crean. Like, do you think the Kentucky win happens if you don't get that win against NC State first?
Yeah, that definitely gave us like a sense of like, oh, we're here. All the hard work that we've put in, it's paying off, and we're capable. We didn't doubt that, but I think that solidified it for everybody else to see that we were the real deal that year, and we could get things done, and that gave us a lot more confidence going into the Kentucky game. And but like I said, we believed in ourselves. Just the way that we prepared and going through all those losses the first 2 years was awful. So we hated losing by that point, so it was good for us.
All right. Yeah, that Michigan. I thought the same thing about that NC State game too. How much we reference that. I did look up the Michigan State team. I'm glad we got to the NC State game to pull us out of the tailspin that was talking about Kentucky and the Syracuse game. I'm not sure how we got to that point. The Michigan State team, as best I can tell, is pretty much a list of anybody that you ever watched at Michigan State and were like, this guy's been there for 8 years. So guys like Charlie Bell. Corey Lucius, although he transferred, so he didn't fit that. Raymar Morgan, he was there forever. Derek Nix, forever.
Oh my.
Darrell Summers was there for quite a while. It felt like Delvin Rowe. So those are at least some of the guys on that team for anybody curious. So should be interesting game. I think that's probably cool for you, Jordan, and some of the guys to renew some of the rivalries you had with some of those players. Was that something that you guys really enjoyed last year as well? Kind of running into guys that you had played with either here or overseas or on different leagues?
Yeah, I mean the tournament's so great in that aspect as well. You're playing against guys from all over the country that you've, like you said, either played against in college or overseas, and just to be able to do that, it makes it a great experience and a lot of fun. And at the end of the game, everything's cool, but during the game, it gets pretty chippy. So it's great competition that way.
Hey, Jordan, one more question for you about just kind of the current Hoosiers, and I meant to mention this earlier. You got a guy like Troy Williams who has declared for the draft, isn't quite sure he can come back for another year, and could get drafted by the NBA or could start his career overseas, and he's already graduated. So there's a lot of things there for him to consider. How would you kind of counsel him on what would be the best way to make his decision about whether to stay and maybe start his professional career overseas if he's not going to go to the NBA, or to come back and finish his senior year at IU?
Well, I think to be able to test the waters the way that he is and still be able to come back to school, I think why not take advantage of that opportunity? Because he's going to the Combine, correct?
He is.
I don't know the dates. Is that
Combine's
he can go to
first
that and still come back?
Yeah, and then Combine's first, and then about a week and a half later, they have to decide either way.
Okay. So, I think that's a great opportunity just to see where he's at, to be able to play against those guys who may or may not get drafted. He could be in that same boat. So I would just say to take in that whole process, but whatever he does decides, he's got to be in it 100%. He can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If you're going to do something, you got to just go do it. But obviously, we'd love to see him back. I think he would obviously help us. He'd be one of the older guys, and that'd be great for the team. Obviously, with his athletic ability, and he's getting better every year, I think. So it's hard for me to say exactly. I can't tell him what to do, obviously, and I'm happy that he's taken that advantage of that rule now, that he can go get the extra looks or whatever. But I'll be anxious to see what he decides to do.
And for folks who want more information about your skills camp, where's the best place for them to go?
For my skills camp, you can go to jordanhalls1.com, and that has all the registration information, and you can get the instructional videos. You can buy them from there as well. And it's in Bloomington at my high school, Bloomington South, June 22nd through 24th, grades 2 through 10. And it's 2 separate sessions. Second through 5th grade go together, and then 6th through 10th grade go together. So it's co-ed. All is welcome. I'm really excited about it and hope to see a lot of people there.
Yeah. And Jon, what's the best way for people to stay connected with the tournament? Obviously, you need to go to assemblycall.com/TBT, and that will take you to the Armored Athlete page where you can vote for Armored Athlete and support former Hoosiers. But for people who want to, connect with the tournament as a whole, what's the best way to do that?
By voting, that's the best way to do it. So if you go through that site or to thetournament.com, find your favorite team. It's probably going to be Armored Athlete for the people watching it, and vote for them.
I hope so.
Yeah. I think you worked hard enough for the vote today, Jordan.
Yes. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to pull my part.
Yep. No, you are.
Yeah, the games will start July 9, and they'll be in Chicago. But as long as you vote, we'll keep you updated on everything with that team.
And then in a certain portion of the games will be on TV again this year, right?
Yeah, we'll have to be determined, but we'll have probably, last year we had the final 8 on TV, and this year we're anticipating more than that on ESPN, ESPN2, combination thereof. So probably round of 16 onward.
Okay, and folks can follow you on Twitter too, right? At JONMUGAR. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Well, Jon, this has been great. We appreciate you coming on here and talking about the tournament. And Jordan, it's always a pleasure for us to host an IU legend on the Assembly Call. So we appreciate you making time to be here.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure. All right. Thank you, and good luck, Jordan. We'll be following you. Well, good luck first in the playoffs. Hopefully, you guys do well there in the rest of your season in Belgium, and then good luck in the tournament. Hopefully, Armored Athlete brings it home for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, it'd be a nice little paycheck for the summertime. It'd be great.
Sure would be. Sure would be. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and thank you all for listening. And we will talk to you on the next episode of the Assembly Call.